Okay, amazing artists, now that you've finished drawing your leaves, it's time to color them. So for the sake of time, those of you that are following along in school, in person, you have to choose which drawing you like better. So I went ahead and I chose this one. If you're following along at home, you could really do both if you have the time, or you could just pick one or the other if you like one drawing better than the other. So I'm going to put this one to the side. And this one, I'm gonna go ahead and finish coloring. You could see I blended some greens and browns on this one, some oranges and reds, and on this one I've kind of started with my crayons coloring from yellow into like a yellow green, and I'll keep going into more of a yellow green. And I'm sorry if my camera shakes. So when you're coloring, it's important to press firmly because we're creating a waxy resist. Now, if you're using colored pencils, then you really have to press pretty hard because it's not going to create a resist, and you'll have to just be a little bit more careful when you're coloring, when you're painting. So once I've kind of finished, that one jumps a little bit from a really light to kind of a really dark, but that's okay. I'm just finishing up coloring my leaf. I'm kind of fading the greens into each other. And I've got one last dark green. Next, we're going to use watercolors to paint the background. So some of you probably remember this from other years. We actually used watercolors, liquid watercolors. So if you're following along at home, you can use food coloring. And if you don't have any paint, then you can go ahead and use whatever material you would like to color the background. So I'm going to go ahead and choose. You can pick either blue or purple. I don't want to choose any greens or reds or oranges or browns or anything like that because it will kind of compete with my leaf colors. So I think I'm going to do purple for this one, and I'll just put a teeny little bit of it. This is Pals following in school. I will come bring this to you. You just need a few little drips. Then you also need a cup of water. This watercolor is concentrated, which means it's very dark. So you have to add water to it. So instead of me pouring the water in for you, we're gonna kind of do this technique where you take Mr. and Mrs. Brush. Hello, boys and girls. I'm so excited to paint with you today. Hello, 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 hello. So I'm gonna go ahead and dip it in the water, get a little wet, get a little bit of my color, and then I can go ahead and paint on my paper. Now, if it's too dark, I can add a little bit more water. And if it's too light, I can dip back in the color and I can make it a little darker. Anywhere you have a Sharpie line, it is going to sort of cover, the Sharpie will show through because it's permanent marker. That's why we didn't use a Crayola or a regular marker. All right, now I think I need to add a little bit more water. It's kind of a balance back and forth between water and color. And as you're working, the salt fairy, if those of you at home, you can be your own salt fairy. But at school, I'll come around and I'll sprinkle some salt on your wet parts. And when that dries, you'll see it kind of makes like a really fun speckly pattern. So if you want some darker spots, you can just go straight up with the color. And if you want some lighter spots, you can take the water and spread it out. All right, so I hope you have fun. Get started coloring, and when you're ready for the paint, you can let me know. All right, have fun.